Hello, my name is Stefan Kartman. Welcome to my studio. Today, I'd like to speak about vibrato, specifically a vibrato speed changing exercise, page 21 from An Artist's Guide to Cello Technique. This is an exercise I use on a daily basis to warm up my technique so that there aren't anomalies or gaps as I go from one finger to another with my sound. The idea is that one should be able to continue your vibrato from one finger to another, and sometimes our timing isn't really perfect. As we go from one finger to another, sometimes there's a gap in our vibrato because we're a little tight as we enter into the next note, or really just the sense of release from the finger before and the sense of applying pressure into the next finger sometimes is disrupted because the hand is unbalanced. So in this exercise, it's important that you consider as you go from a low finger to a higher finger, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, or 1 to 4, that your momentum in your vibrato continues through the motion of placing that next finger down. Now, to demonstrate that, I'd like to show you this from another angle. Oh, that's not a good another angle. Okay, we'll call this the vibrato cam. The idea here is that as you're vibrating on one finger, you should be able to smoothly go into the other finger, and as you go to the next finger, your vibrato motion should follow through forward first. Before it goes backwards, it should go forwards and follow the natural transfer of weight, right? That sounds like this, right? Now in this case, I added vibrato a little faster, and perhaps I did an accent in the bow that I didn't intend, right? But the idea is the same, that one needs to go from a vibrato on the former finger and follow through the vibrato into the next finger. And this would be true whether it was from 1 to 2, or 1 to 3, or 1 to 4. You want to try to avoid things like, right, where your vibrato comes back first before it goes forward, because that spoils the continuity of the vibrato, and frequently it will spoil the continuity of a phrase that you're trying to make. Theoretically, we shouldn't have to consciously develop each one of these technical devices that we're working on in the Artist's Guide to Cello Technique. Rather, they should be so natural to us that the smallest whim that we have, if we want to speed up our vibrato bit by bit or suddenly put vibrato on our note to add excitement into the entrance of the note, that should happen just because we want that sound to happen. And if you practice these things individually in your warm-up, it's possible for them to happen unconsciously. But sometimes we do have to practice them a little bit first if we don't do them all by themselves naturally. So the idea of taking your vibrato momentum forward can be practiced by going from one finger to another and increasing the speed of the vibrato on the next note. Okay? Let's try that first and see what it sounds like. Right? I'd also like to practice going from a faster speed to a slower speed, because the speed itself shouldn't disrupt the transfer of weight and the transfer of vibrato from one finger to another. Sometimes we'll get caught up in a motion that's going back and forth, and perhaps our finger happens to be moving backwards as we're transferring weight into the next finger. That can be a little bit problematic. So if you think about it a little bit in your practice and you get used to the idea that the vibrato momentum always goes forward, you can build consistency regardless of whether you're going from a slow vibrato or a faster vibrato. Your hand will naturally find a way to make that vibrato momentum happen if you try. Okay? So as you move vibrato forward, the idea is that your vibrato, as it goes into a higher finger, will continue in that motion forward. And if you do the reverse, that is to say, if you take a finger away and go from a higher finger to a lower finger 1, your vibrato should move back first. So that looks like this. And you can see that my vibrato, the weight of my hand follows the vibrato backwards. Now, in order to make this exercise work, we have to go from each finger that we use on a regular basis. We have to go from each finger to all of the other possible combinations of finger. That is to say that the exercise itself goes from 1 to 2, 1 to 3, and 1 to 4 with no extension, then goes from 1 to 4 extension, and then goes from 2 to 3, and then the extension from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 4, and the extension from 1 to 3, which would be the same pitch, and finally from 3 to 4. In that way, we'll cover every possible combination of fingers, going from slow to fast and fast to slow, and that's the exercise. So let's do this exercise as part of our daily regimen, and you'll find that it will increase your ability to, without any thought, really everything subliminally, that you'll be able to change speeds of vibrato, and that you'll be able to get from one finger to another and not have interruptions in your sound. My suggestion is that you practice this first and fourth position, but I would not neglect first position because it does feel a little bit different, the balance down there. And I would also try to do all of the combinations as you go from first, as you're in thumb position. In thumb position, we have more combinations available to us. So we can go from a thumb to a first finger. It's difficult, right? From thumb to second finger, from thumb to third finger, right? And then all of the possible combinations from half steps to that's another exercise that we'll go through a little bit later in our warm-up. But for now, it's enough to know that you want to try to go through all of the possible combinations of fingers, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, extension versions of all of those. Okay, enjoy this exercise. I hope it helps your cello technique.